Hi Faye, thank you for
Okay.
joining me today.
Yeah,
Um,
pleasure.
I think you were actually one of the first trainers I followed when I set up
Oh,
my little,
really?
yeah, my little Reggie account, yeah, which was meant
Oh,
to be just for nice photos of Reggie, but obviously turned into a bit of a place to vent and be sad
yes. Yeah.
and be happy. But yeah, I think I've followed you for a long time. And I asked the group about who to sort of question, who to send questions to. And there was a lady, Charlie, don't know if you know Charlie Houghton. She was like, I love Faye, do Faye. So that's why we're doing it.
Excellent.
So
Yeah.
our group is a group of misfits, shall we say. We all sort of get together and get to know each other and get to know the dogs behind the issues and support each other and have a bit of a community for people who don't really have a community in like the dog world. Varying degrees of reactivity or and varying degrees of what the dogs look like and how it presents itself and stuff like that. Some of the questions are yeah, well, they're all questions from people. Some of them are from me, and I'll explain those when we get there. Um, but yes, shall we start?
Yeah, go on then.
Let's go. So the first question, I like to ask this because I think there's varying degrees of how people define it, but how do you define reactivity?
So I would say it's dogs that have big feelings about things that come out as socially unacceptable behaviors. That's my thing. It's mostly reactivity only exists in a world where people don't like barky dogs. It's more a them issue, not the dog's issue, really. I mean, they're having big feelings, but it's everybody else's attitude towards that tends to make it reactivity, I
Yeah.
think.
Oh, this is a second question that I've just thought of. Sorry. Do you do you like labels? Do you like the label reactivity? Do you think
I
it
mean,
helps or hinders?
so I think it's just we have that word because it gets us, it means that clients can find us, I think. It's like the term reactivity is so that you can go, oh, I work with reactive dogs, so people know what your kind of work focuses on. Um, but yeah, I don't know, like it's all just behavior, you know? So it's just you have to kind of look at the behavior and how it presents and what the kind of triggers and stuff are with everything. So, like people call Dobermans reactive, but that's the point of them.
Yeah.
And it only becomes a problem when it becomes a problem. So, like with your guardian breeds and your shepherds and things like that, they might be turned reactive or oh, they're always reactive or they're all gobs. And actually that's just what they're kind of built for. So, I suppose labels can help and they can hinder. I think they shrink the way that we look at things if we just go, dash, that's reactivity, that is. Because it might not be.
Yeah, from a personal note, like with me, sometimes I find it useful because it's like you when people are like, "Oh, bring your dog," and you're like, "Ugh, it's really hard to explain why I
Yeah, yeah.
can't bring my dog." But then other times, I know I can see myself being like, "Oh, Reggie can't because he's reactive." It's like, but can he? Like, it's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
both.
They can be it can be limiting. It can limit what
Yeah,
you do, you know. Like I think it's that's the thing. It's like Barbie is quote unquote reactive or was quote unquote reactive, but she's a Doberman, so she's gobshite. That's the point of her. And there are certain situations where I would never take some of my client dogs where she's totally fine. And it just depends on kind of the vibe and the learning history and stuff like that, and what they're good at and what they're not good at, and
yeah,
what you've worked with them with.
yeah.
So yeah.
And our focus is mainly sort of on dog to dog reactivity, which seems to be many of the group's biggest issues. Um, do you think every dog should have doggy friends? Is it realistic or achievable for every dog?
Yes, I do. I tend to, honestly. Because like canine friendships are really lovely to see. And also they'll get things off dogs that they don't get off us. We're not dogs, we're just their human. And it's fine to be their best friend. But seeing a dog with their best dog friend is just so lovely. Um, but it's difficult to find the right ones. Um, I was thinking about this question, like with regards to Barbie, we've been really lucky because I have a dog walking business as well. And we set up the dog walking business in like 2016, I want to say. Yeah, 2016. Been going for a long time. Um, and all of the dogs that were in the gang, we vetted really closely to make sure that she would be okay with them and they wouldn't rub her up the wrong way and they wouldn't frighten her. Um, and it really helped her progress with how she felt about dogs. We don't walk any of her nemesis breeds or any of the vibes that she doesn't like. And she made some really good friends. She's forged some really, really strong friendships. Like we went out the other week, due to vehicle stuff, and I had to meet Tom in the park, and he had Barbie's pals, Bo, Luna, and Poppy, and she was just so happy to see them. It was really nice, and I'm like, she's
Oh,
getting something, that's like a quote unquote outlet that she wouldn't have got elsewhere. If she's feeling a bit sad, just take her on a walk with Bo, and she's just like, "Oh, this is great. This is amazing."
yeah,
And I do always try and if I'm working with well, both types of reactivity, frustration based and fear based, I'll always try if a dog has not got any dog friends to encourage the guardians to select a friend for their dog, but you have to do it really, you've got to do it carefully. It's like, your reactive dogs don't want dogs that are going to rub them up the wrong way. And dogs that are dead excited by dogs, you need a sensible dog that's not going to just like jazz them up and kind of
yeah,
get them rehearsing behaviors that you don't really want to see. So it's hard, but I do honestly think they should have dog friends, really.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Has Reggie got any friends?
he's
Dog
got
friends?
he's got a friend now. He's so like I can't even I just love it. It's really curious because he's very he is we meet dogs sometimes and he's not a bite risk.
No.
He's just very loud and barky and he has on lead reactivity. So he does meet dogs from time to time and I'm just always really careful of it him suddenly being like, no, I don't like you. And then that's fine because he will just take himself away is when the other dog keeps going where he doesn't like it. But now he has a proper friend that we can go walking with, and she's got Doberman in her. So she's feisty. She likes to tell him like what to do, and he listens. And that was the
He's like, yes,
biggest.
this.
Yeah, yeah. It's like okay, she's a girl as well, so that always
Yeah.
helps. But I watching them together. Also, when he plays, he can be very vocal. He's got quite like a play growly sort of noise. So it's like if you've got a little cockapoo and you're like, oh, excuse me, could they play? And it's like, oh, it sounds scary. So
Yeah,
his dog pal and dog pal's owner are very understanding, and also we can see that it's just play and we can sort of
yeah,
monitor
yeah.
it. But he didn't have friends for a long time, and it was always in my mind. So the fact that we've worked towards this place where he can have a friend is like, I just am on cloud nine every time they're together. It's like so sweet, so sweet. But
I
I
think
do
it
want
helps,
more.
helps you as well, doesn't it? It helps you as the guardian to just be like, oh no, you can do it. It kind of fills you up when you're like, oh yeah, no, this is fine actually.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, yeah. It's like anything I do to add to confidence just
Yeah.
pays off. But it's
Yeah.
obviously it is a leap, like a jump that is tricky to take. But yeah, it's nice. It's real nice. Bless him.
I tend to find male female friendships tend to do better. It seems to be like a boy and a girl that kind of get on.
Yeah,
on-
yeah. You can just it
well,
just sort of makes sense. I think especially, she's a young girl. It's like he's like, oh, okay, you're pretty. Sorry. It just
I
seems
love you.
yeah. It's like, yes, okay, I'll stop breathing. Sorry. I'll do whatever you say. She is quite funny because she also like wafts her like bum in his face, and then he goes for a sniff, and she's like, no, no,
And
no, no,
he's
no,
like,
no.
no.
Yeah.
Barbie does this as well.
Oh.
Sniff my bum. No, don't.
Yeah. Like, oh, look at me. Don't. But yeah, it is nice. It's like so. It is really nice, and it was something that was always in the back of my mind. When you're like, this needs to be a step. It's just getting ready to do the step
Yeah.
and finding the right person.
Yeah, you've got to find the right person. Like you've got to find the right dog and find the right
Dog.
person.
Yeah, and person.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, so this is my question because my logical brain wants to say that it's just, is it a thing? So Nemesis breeds. What is going on there? And why does it happen? Because I'll also caveat by saying we don't believe, I don't, from to my knowledge, there's never been a bad incident. He's never been attacked by a golden retriever, but golden retrievers are the devil and really, really explosive reactivity when he sees a golden retriever. Is it a thing? Is Nemesis breeds a thing?
yeah, it is. Yeah. Vibes usually. It's vibes. Um, like I think golden retrievers are daft, quite friendly, over the top, not very good at reading cues, social cues. So, like your dog can tell from a distance whether or not a dog is safe or not, and whether or not they want them to approach. And yeah, vibes is a good way to describe it. I know Barbie doesn't like German shepherds. She doesn't like spaniels. I mean, there is, there's a very short list of dogs that she does like, but she
Yeah.
has her particular breeds that she is good with. She loves golden retrievers. Um, Learning history is a thing as well. So you might not have had a particular incident with a dog where they've actually had a to do, but one might have made Reggie jump once, you know? And that's the thing with German Shepherds and Barbie. Just made a jump once, and that was it. They're on the shit list. Am I allowed to
Yeah.
swear?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh God, yeah.
And it's interesting because she even knows German Shepherd barks. So she knows if there's a German Shepherd in the house, even though she can't see it. It's I think when you've got a sensitive dog, they pick up on a lot of little things that we don't. And yeah, vibes is a good way to term it, I
I
think.
like that. Do you are there dog breeds that come up more common, like when you're dealing with people, their dog reactivity?
So black dogs, kind of any breed of black dog, usually. I think it's because they're quite difficult to read, as you can't tell what the face is doing. Flat faced breeds because of the noises that they make and the fact that again they're difficult to read. Um, Labradors often end up on the shit list because of the bedoingness. Um, and yeah, I think those are like definite kind of, oh yeah, that makes sense, that makes sense, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um, and I think it's just again, it's like can they read them? What do they look like? How much information can they get from that dog? I find with Barbie in particular, Barbie's experience. So she doesn't like German Shepherds, she doesn't like collies, she doesn't like dogs that have got ears that point forward, and I think that can be quite threatening to dogs. Like collies when they sort of go into that down and they look at you and they do that. Well, I mean, the rays do that anyway. That's quite threatening. They're just being a collie. But if your dog's a bit sensitive to sort of the approach of other dogs, then they're just reading it as, oh, they're going to go come and get me now, kind of thing. So
yeah.
they just want to see him off as possible.
And also the
Um,
staring, there's quite a lot of staring with like collies
yeah,
and
yeah,
German shepherds. It tends to be
yeah,
quite starey.
yeah. And Rotties do it as well. I mean, my friend Bella, she's a dog. She is the girlie that I used to take out once a week, and she's frustration reactive, frightened of people. And one of her things that she does is she does the rotty kind of
Mhm.
kind of thing when and that's her kind of precursor to play. But I've not walked her in about 6 months because she's had cruciate ligament damage. And we've been out recently and I'm having to remind her that she's being creepy. I'm like, Bella, you're
Yeah.
being creepy. She sees it and she's like, oh, I'm like, Bella, can you just, you're being creepy.
Yeah.
Because that is, that's, the stalking. So if you're a little sausage dog, you're like, I'm about to be eaten, even though she just wants to go badoing when she gets there.
Yeah. Do you know, Reggie's a fan of a stalk. He loves the
Yeah.
stalk. And I like, when you just see other people's faces, you're like, darling, I'm sorry, but you can't stalk people and
Yeah.
other dogs. I know you're playing, but it looks scary. And also like the hard eye. So
Yeah.
this is partly why his recall's not particularly good around other dogs, as well as him being, iffy. So I keep him on lead when we see other dogs, but he would, if he was off lead, he would want to run up to them and stare at them. And it's like, you're
Yeah.
not going in there with good vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
You're gonna
exactly.
get,
Well, that's it. That's it. That's the vibes.
That's the vibe. It's vibes. Okay, I like that. So vibes. Even with the smell of a golden retriever, he's furious.
Yeah.
It's I find it really interesting. What's the so do dogs have dog enemies? And how can you overcome them?
So, yes, and it depends. That's the answer that all dog trainers give. Like in the wild, you can, but only I would say probably only try to the point of like passing the house or something like that. Off lead, I would just wouldn't bother. Life's too short, really. Because you don't know why, or unless you do know why the dog's had become an enemy of this dog. Um, but if you don't know and they've just taken offence, then it's easy to just hard avoid, really. Um, if it's intra-household stuff, because sometimes dogs fall out with each other, you can work through that, but it takes a lot of work. I mean, both of those things take a lot of work because ultimately it's your dog's feelings towards the other dog, and if you have not got any control over that other dog, then that's going to make them even more kind of scary and weird. So if they've had an incident like a collie once made Barbie jump when we're on a group walk, and evermore she doesn't like collies. So if we see a collie in the distance, I'll just get her away um, to a safe enough distance because I don't have control over that dog over there. So I can't get her past anything more than just seeing the dog and like going, oh, there's a collie over there, Faye, and yeah, all right, and move her away. I wouldn't want to approach and do any close work because there's just not a huge amount of point in doing it.
Yeah,
You've got to choose your battles, really.
yeah.
If it's like next door, it's a next door dog, you can desensitize to that, them being out and stuff like that. But again, it's helpful if you speak to your next door neighbour, which can be difficult.
Mm.
Because if your dog's gobbing off at their dog and their dog's gobbing off at your dog, you end up in a situation where you hate next door, your dog hates next door, and you're both just stewing, being angry about next door. And then you already got that feeling before you let the dog out for a wee and things like that. So it's
Hmm.
just the whole picture is quite a lot. So you've got
Yeah,
to kind of drip down and kind of work it out in parts, which is just a massive fanny, really, if you don't have to do it.
absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing is you. I try and be realistic with Reggie as well. Like with, it's like let's work on this, but this might not be a thing. Um, what are some of the key differences between fear reactivity and, say, frustration-based reactivity?
Um, so right, my thinking on reactivity, this is my opinion. It's all rooted fundamentally in dysregulation. Um, so like I said before, we have labels for these things for clients and to help guardians kind of understand what's going on. But like for me, methodologically, like when I'm working with somebody, I approach them both in a very similar way, because we have to deal with the regulation before we do any sort of protocols and things like that. Because if your dog can't regulate when they're feeling sort of wound up, then you're not going to have a huge amount of success when you're trying to teach them capital T training protocols. Your fear-based stuff, usually there's like a ground zero incident, like with Barbie, she was attacked and nearly ended by another dog. It's going to frighten her. Or like lack of exposure. Maybe I was working with a dog the other day who was just he'd been very ill throughout most of his kind of young like puppyhood and adolescence. So he's not sure like what's going on in the world. And that can make him sort of feel defensive. But usually they were quite emotionally dysregulated before. So like with Barb, before she was attacked, she was still a spicy girl because that's how she is. And that's why we've had to kind of work on the regulation side of it. And I think this is why I don't like labels, because like with frustration based stuff, I think there's probably some kind of fear in there. It's like frustration and like fear that they're going to lose access to the thing that they want.
Hmm.
So if you actually like, we can't really ever know what your dog's frightened or not frightened of, but like behaviorally, if we think about what's happening in their kind of nervous system, they want that thing, and you're not giving them opportunities to do that thing. So they're getting frustrated, but really, is it like it's like, oh shit, I'm going to lose this thing, and it comes out as frustration. And really, they're highly motivated to access the thing, and it's the loss of the thing that that they're kind of kicking off about, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That does make sense. Yeah.
But like I'd say that like the difference, I think the difference is probably more like the prognosis, like how quickly you'll be able to resolve it.
Hmm.
Because depending on like if it's like true fear-based aggression, if they've had a really traumatic sort of ground zero event, then you're gonna have to help them kind of get over that. Um, and it can take a long time if you ever get fully over it, because um like ultimately they're like responding to the trigger or whatever it is in a self-protective way. Um, because in the past that's made them feel scared or threatened. And it's like this is a biological, it's biologically rooted, like it's a self-protective thing. If you didn't scare away the things that might threaten you, then you might die.
Hmm.
Oh, it's like that negativity bias of like, is it a stick or is it a snake? That's what's going on in the dog's head. So you've got to kind of slowly work through that to get them to the other end. And it's still probably going to be there because it's kept them alive in their head in the
Mm.
past. Um, so like when with like frustration stuff, it takes more work from the guardian side, I find, because usually the reason why they want to get to the dog is because they value the dog over their human.
Yeah.
And it depends on where they've kind of built that rehearsal history of having a fun time. Like a lot of dogs that I meet who've been to daycare as a frustration reactive because they've just been
Mm.
thrown into the dog fight club and allowed to do whatever they want and just not regulate their play. So when they're on a lead with the human's the problem. So you've got to rebuild that relationship as well. So it's yeah, I think I always go regulation first, and then we kind of tweak stuff along the way. But the difference is usually just like how quickly you can get through it. I think, in my experience, I think.
I like that. The regulation thing. I like that. I think it's cool. Um, a cool way of looking at it. I like the word. Also from my experience based with Reggie, it is really when you have a dog that doesn't default to sort of focus back with you, it's really hard because you're
Yeah.
like, hello, I'm over here.
Well, and that's the relationship, and the thing is, like that with a fear reactive dog, they don't want to default to you because they don't trust you usually. And with a frustration reactive dog, they don't want to default to you because that dog over there is much more important. So we have to
Yeah,
kind of like walk it back, get the regulation kind of practiced, and also build the relationship with the human. Because as soon as the dog trusts it, like for fear reactivity, if they trust you can get them out of dodge, they're just like, please take me away.
yeah,
And if they're frustration reactive and they trust that you're happy, happy, fun party girl,
yeah,
they're like, oh, sod that dog. What are we doing? And
yeah.
but that takes kind of building up, and
It
that's
takes a
the
lot of building up, and there's a lot of consistency as well. When you're like, I have it sometimes, and I know people in the group would relate. I have times where I'm like, I know Reggie's really motivated by play, but I
yeah,
have to. It's not a natural thing. Like, oh, cool, we're outside, let's play. It's it's taking a lot of motivation to get there because in the house he'll play, but outside
yeah.
it's not so much. But there's some days where I'm like, I just want to walk, like I can't be bothered to. And it's like it just takes a lot of consistency to be like,
Well,
let's
that's
play.
it. You can have
Yeah,
days and not every single walk has to be a training walk.
I know
Like
this,
you
but
don't you don't need to do capital T training every single walk. But what you have to remember is that your dog's always learning. So if you can't be asked playing, go on a walk where you know that you can just take a step back a little bit and just practice all of your lower level kind of engagement stuff. That's just your conversation that you have with your dog. Like I mean, we call it check-ins and stuff, but it's like you've seen my videos of Barbie. We chat. You
yeah,
just look at me and I'll chuck up and we just chat and we go along, and that's just as important. And actually, that's not, you don't necessarily need to play all the time. The dog
yeah.
knows they can get play off you if they want to, but they also know that you can have chats and just dick around together.
Yeah.
So it's not like you just do this one thing, this one cool trick, and your dog will love you forever. It's not a thing.
Oh, I just like to I think a lot of people probably can relate, but you know when you're like I just like to give myself a hard time for constantly not doing everything all of the time.
Oh,
So,
God.
so
You can't do all the things.
no. I try, but I can't.
No, you can't. It's impossible.
Um, okay, here's a good question. What are some signs to look out for to show that the dog wants distance versus wants the interaction, but maybe can't quite cope?
Like cope when they meet the dog,
Yeah, I
or
think
cope
so. I
like
probably should have. I think mainly I think mainly the things is like to look out for when what to look out for when you think your dog actually wants the distance or actually wants the interaction.
okay. Um, Historical behavior is a good starting point. So, like, if you've seen your dog, I'm assuming that most people have seen their dog off a lead and have it to do with a dog or run over to a dog or something. So, look back at things that have happened in the past, like if they're off a lead and they're fine with dogs and they'll play around with dogs, sort of if they arrive, then I'm thinking like if they're on a lead and they kind of react, because I know frustration based and fear based reactivity can look quite similar if you don't know what you're looking for. So I'd always look at historical behavior. So if you've seen the dog off lead interacting reasonably well with other dogs, then it's likely that when they're on a lead and they're being reactive, that there's frustration in there and they want to, they just can't cope with being on the lead, and then they want to access the other dog. Um, or if they do a barbie and if they're off lead, just like bog off at high speed chasing the dog away. This is in the olden days,
And
not now. Then they're just trying to chase them off. You know,
yeah.
they'll like chase off, chase, 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 chase. When they're on a lead, like the frustration kind of might, it sounds different. It's more high pitched. The way that the lunge looks different. Like you might see, it's easier to see usually in smaller dogs like poodles, but if they want to get to something, they tend to go on the back feet and they're just
Hmm.
like that. Bigger dogs do that also, but it's
Mhm.
more difficult for them to do that when they're on a lead. And it's like the weight distribution is through the back feet because they want to get to the thing. Whereas with fear-based stuff, the weight seems to be more on the front because they're barking and sort of walk like barking and going backwards whilst they're doing it. So
Mm.
they'll lunge forward and go whoa, 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 and move backwards, and then lunge forward, whoa, whoa, and then move backwards. And so that's more of a get the fuck away from me kind of thing. But from the outside, if you don't know what you're looking for, these both dogs are reactive,
Hmm.
and the guardians are often just like, oh, we need to get them away from it. Um, but it's it always depends though. The distance that they need will depend on the dog, will depend on the vibes,
Hmm.
what's happened before, what's happened. The if you get to know your dog's body language, your own personal dog's body language, and get used to sort of reading it, then you'll have more of a kind of grasp on kind of what they're up to. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I like that. I've written
Yes.
down vibes. That's my way of
Vibes.
naming
It's
things. So,
vibes.
this is potentially controversial. Not sure. Might be. What's your thoughts on neutering spaying to help or hinder with dog-to-dog issues?
So I guess it depends. Like I think I tend to prefer if I'm working with an intact male and they've got fear reactivity, I tend to prefer they stay intact until we've got some until we've like pulled everything out and had a look at what's driving it. Um, but one of the things with intact males is that they can become a target for other dogs, and that can feed into that reactivity. But I know that I've worked with male dogs who's been sort of like foisted into getting the dogs neutered by the vets, and the confidence just goes.
Hmm.
So it's like you can get your work in there when they've got that confidence, and then later on you can kind of de-sex them if you want to. I haven't really noticed a huge amount of difference with bitches. Um, really. But hormones are really important for just the way that your system works. So I can't. I've got no proof of this because I'm just going by dogs that I've worked with, but I'm sure it will impact it.
Hmm.
Um, I know that early spay and neuter tends to have a little bit of these are the dogs that I've worked with. I mean, this is the thing. Like, the pool of dogs that I'm working with are all largely reactive.
Hmm.
So it's difficult to drill down to like that point that kind of helped create this, because usually they
Mm.
are a bit spicy before. But I think I've worked with some boy dogs who've been neutered really early and they become a target for like intact males.
Hmm.
So it's not necessarily aggression, it's just like they seem to confuse them. And if they're not a particularly resilient dog, then that frightens them and then they become fearful and etc. So um I think it's a case by case basis, but I tend to prefer a dog intact when I work with them for behaviour.
Hmm.
And then work through it and have discussions about it as we go along. I think vets are quite happy to just castrate males because they think it'll make a difference, and I'm still just not sure about that at all. I
Hmm.
haven't seen it just like overnight improve a dog's behaviour.
Hmm.
I've only ever seen it do the other,
Mm.
you know.
It's quite permanent as well, obviously.
Well, I mean, you can chemically
You can
castrate
chemical,
now,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
do tend to recommend that for clients that have got male dogs. So a little dog that I had last year, they chemically castrated first, and then
Yeah.
went. But he's still massively reactive though. So I mean, I think there's probably pain going on. I think he's got kind of knackered knees or something like that that we've not
Hmm.
managed to get to the bottom of. But they tested it first, which I think is the best kind of way to do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's gonad sparing spays as well, which I don't think they're as easy to get done. But I think that would keep your hormone levels all in there.
Hmm.
But essentially, that's kind of like the whole like thinking behind castrating and spaying is to get rid of those hormones because they're the problematic ones. And I'm like, bigger picture than that, really.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, what are your top tips for handling unavoidable close encounters?
So I was thinking about this. A lot of practice when there's nothing going on. A lot of practice. Um, your lead handling. I get people to really practice the dog's response to tension on lead.
Hmm.
So you want, if there's any tension on the lead at all, for the dog to turn around and orient to you. And it should be like muscle memory so that you can get to a point where if your dog happens to lunge, they'll lunge and then they turn back to you and they just reorient. That takes a lot of practice, but it is golden. Um, Practicing having a raised voice as well. So like shouting, call your dog, or you know, they're not friendly or whatever in a field when there's nothing going on. So you shout it and then throw a piece of food at your dog, so that they get used to that heightened voice and it doesn't freak them out.
Hmm.
Um, I used to take like sacrificial balls out with me. Um, Sometimes you can, what's this? And then lob a ball at the dog that's approaching you. You can do that with treats as well. Lob them right directly in the face. Nice way.
Yeah.
Um, and I have taught somebody to use as like the pocket umbrellas that have got the button.
Yeah.
So I've got I taught a client to do that. She was an older lady. Um, but we had to condition the dog first. So you have to
Yeah.
condition the dog to like eat sacrificial balls. Usually, when I've done it with Barb and my what's he called? I can't remember. It was a Labrador. Had basically a cued lob the ball, and when I say that cue, that means don't chase this ball.
Hmm.
So you have to teach it first, so that if the dog's approaching, you can lob that, and your dog doesn't go oh ball, and then
Yeah.
pull you on your ass. Um, but yeah, the umbrella worked really well. I think she only used it once in the time that like, I was still in contact with her. But we had to build that
Yeah.
as a thing. But it's handy because they can just go in your bum bag or your pocket, and they
That's
go poof
cool.
like that.
Yeah.
And you can use them like you can use them to hide behind, but also if you've got one with a spring, then you can just point it at the dog as they're approaching. Sometimes it's enough to just freak them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think your lead handling is just if you've taught lead response well, then you can just go right, come on, and just go. And the dog's not going, no, I'm pulling and I'm shouting and I'm pulling and I'm shouting, because they've got a nice conditioned response to this means follow me.
Yeah,
That one has saved well, not saved Barbie, saved dogs running at Barbie
yeah,
a lot in the past. Um, and I did a lot of shouting as well, with her, like shouting these things so that she doesn't immediately, because she's the one who um takes cues from the things that I say, and so like we used to, when she was reactive to bikes, when Tom and I were walking, Tom would be ahead of me and he'd go bike. Oh, happened about 4 times, and then she
yeah,
realized that that meant the bike coming, so she'd just bog off and chase the bike.
yeah,
So you have to make sure that you teach the cue and the response outside of context,
yeah,
and keep it in there as well. Because
co-
if you only use it when there's a dog approaching, then your dog's going to learn that,
yeah.
you know.
That bike thing's hilarious. She's like, "Oh, this is
Oh,
great. They're warning me."
no,
Where is
well,
it?
she was run over by a middle-aged man in Lycra when she was
Oh
about
yeah,
8 months old.
yeah.
He
I
ran
know
he
the
ran
I know the one.
directly on her head, you know. So, and
Oh,
that he ran over her head and then he shouted at me. So the whole thing was terrifying.
oh,
So that was a big one to have to work through.
oh, bless
She's
her.
done everything. Barbie's done everything.
The next one. This is what I ask everybody. It's my uh, little things I ask. So three things you'd recommend working on or doing, adding to your reactive dog's life.
Lots of sniffing and chewing, because these are nice for down regulation. Do it at home. You can do like sniffy setups like you might see me doing with Barbie. And also using sniffing, like have a cued find it so that you can direct the dog onto a sniff, but don't use it for distracting your dog.
Hmm.
Use it as a way to bring them down after they've had a kick off,
Hmm.
because that'll just bring them down and get them back in the room. Um, Practicing proprioception stuff. This is like a big brain things, but I find that encouraging them to use the bodies mindfully really helps. And you can do that if you do sniffy stuff. I like, if you've seen any of my stories with Barb, I usually put textures down for her to kind of work through. On, like they're down and then the sniffy stuff is on top. And as she's walking over it, her paws are going, oh, that's different, that's different. And it seems to just bring them back into the body a little bit more.
Hmm.
Um, for want of a better word, they move more mindfully. Um,
Hmm.
and I would say, if you can, highest quality diet that you can possibly afford, because shit food really does spike everything. They might have a tummy ache, they might just be full of carbs and just over the top. Um, if you spend anything on anything, they don't need new harnesses, they don't need new leads, they don't need food is really important. Um, that's my
That's your three. I love. Oh, the last question. Which is I like this question because I think sometimes we're so as dog guardians of these sort of dogs. I think sometimes you can lose yourself a little bit in it all.
yeah.
And so part of why we do the meetings is to sort of bring focus on the humans and like to have an hour or so away from their dogs as well, which I think sometimes is important.
Sorry.
So like I know I'm the worst. Like he's all I ever talk about, but it's nice to have a break and stuff. Even though we are talking about dogs in the meetings, but you know what I mean. So what are your three bits of advice for the humans behind their difficult dogs?
So, well, one of my things was take time for yourself, and with the addition of try to work on your own nervous system. This has made a huge difference for me over the years, like breath work, doing your own proprioception stuff, stability training, so that you feel like sturdy enough. Because I think a lot of what we get freaked out about is I can't handle my dog kind of thing. So if you manage to practice sort of like bringing yourself down, practicing your breathing and things, and you feel more sturdy in yourself, then you're more able to be present and on planet Earth if your dog is being a dick. And they'll co-regulate with you as well. Like if you're like sparkling on edge, if your nervous system's just like they kind of mirror you. Especially if you're the best mate, it's just like you're the person that they look up to. And if you're freaked out, then you give them a lot of, like, it's not you're making them anxious, it's just they'll read a situation based on how you're reading the situation.
Mhm.
And a lot of the times it's like fake it till you make it. But doing actual practice of these things at home and just giving yourself time and practicing, it'll help you feel just better in general. It's a bit like a Yoda kind of thing, but it does, it makes a difference. And it's really boring because they always say that these things make a difference, and they do make a difference. And it's just like, oh, I have to actually do the things, but you're kind of helping yourself and you'll help your dog as well. And that was the first one. The second one is it's never as bad as you think it is. Like, don't worry, nobody really gives a shit about what you're up to. They don't care. Like everybody is the protagonist of their own story. You're just like a side character.
Yeah,
So like you're tiny, tiny, tiny couple of seconds in their day, and they almost certainly won't ever think about you again.
yeah.
Like whether your dog's kicked off on them, whether you've gone and hidden in a bush, like they don't care because they're doing their own thing. So you don't have to go, oh God, I don't know what we're thinking, because they probably weren't. They probably weren't at all. So it's never anywhere, like nobody is taking notes on you.
Yeah.
Like nobody is.
Yeah, no, I
And
love
that's
that.
huge. It's really freeing to know that. Like I
Yeah.
had a real lovely experience of this like last year, the year before. There's a black German Shepherd that lives around the corner. Nemesis breed. She's a girl. She's like all the things Barbie hates. And the lad who walks her, I always have to hide or like just do a U-turn and walk away because I know Barbie will shout. And he was walking past our house, and I hid behind. Like, I went out and I and then came back, put her behind my car. And as he was walking past, I went, "Afternoon." I was like, "Hiya, sorry if you think I'm being weird. Like I keep like just disappearing." And he sort of looked at me, and I saw like little buffering symbol over his head. And he's just like, "I've never noticed you in my life before, ever." And I'm like, every single time I've seen this guy, I've hidden, actively run away at points, and he just didn't even register me at all. I'm like, nobody cares. Nobody cares what you're up to. They're doing their own thing. And the third one, final one, just have some fun with your dog. They are a cool person. You love them, and dicking about will help you remember why they're much more than their reactivity, and
Mhm.
that's why you love them. And just dicking about and having fun is huge. And again, that adds to your relationship building and stuff because it's good fun. And like, oh, you're a fun person, and it makes you cheerful, and you again co-regulating together, having fun together, and enjoying yourselves. And it just reminds you that your dog's all right, even though they did just kick off that this, and this, nearly a cat or whatever.
Oh, I love those. I really, really love those. And the thing that's really sparked my like was what it something is going on in here. Um, I had the pleasure of doing a workshop with Sarah Fisher, which
Ooh,
we've sadly lost her from the industry, and she was talking about anxiety and proprioception
yeah,
in dogs. And I
yeah,
find it really interesting because I've always been quite an anxious person and I have really poor proprioception. So I always there's something I need to work on myself, and I do
yeah,
practice it in a practical way with Reggie and lead handling and that sort of thing. And I don't feel as nervous handling him as I used to because obviously he's a big boy. He is very big. I got more and more confident, but it is just something that I'm aware of because I am very clumsy. He is very clumsy. There's times where we end up like on the floor, and I was like, "Oh, Reggie, knock me over." It wasn't Reggie; he didn't knock me over.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
I,
follow within a
yeah, I just find it really interesting. Like if there's a link between dogs and proprioception and anxiety sort of thing, I wonder if there was with humans. It kind of would
yeah,
make
yeah,
sense there was too. But it's something, yeah, to feel sort of more grounded, physically, but also metaphorically. To feel
yeah.
more grounded in that moment. And it's a journey I've been on, and it's always a journey, isn't it? But it's really interesting. Really, really enjoyed that.
Good.